I'm hoping to have a positive discussion about some of the complexities that occur in our country that I think, they're rare, but, because of the horrific nature of these things, I think it captures the worst aspects of our fears, with regards to our children. And of course, that's related to, these rare school shooting events, just like the one that recently happened in Michigan. And I think that, over the years that I've been doing this, anytime one of these tragic events occur, which of course in hindsight everybody becomes a armchair quarterback, trying to decipher how this could have been prevented, what should have been done, and especially with the advent of social media, to then try to remedy the situation. And I can tell you that with how rare statistically these events are, if you take into consideration the sheer number of schools, the sheer number of students, and how many total days, which is around 180, that kids are in school, these are extremely, extremely rare events. But once again, media and because of the tragic nature, it does dwell in our thoughts, and I understand that. I'm a parent myself with a daughter that goes to school. So that I get. At the same time, what is not shown and what is not discussed is the collateral damage. And there's always collateral damage, guys, and I don't care what we're discussing. I don't care what law they put into place. There is always collateral damage, unintended, not thought about, and people, push forward with this legislation or with these changes in rules and with this enhancement of security and safety, thinking we're solving a problem without taking into consideration who is going to be churned underneath the aggression and power of government in their attempt, good intent, to do some good and to safeguard children. And this is where I step in, because that's always where I step in. All right, guys, I do not represent the majority. The majority tends to be the problem. I am a member of majorities, just like you guys, depending on what that is. All right, doesn't matter your color, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your race or ethnicity, or your sexual preference. It does not matter. At various points in your life and interactions with other human beings and within communities, you are a majority. Even if you believe you're a minority, at different points in time, you are a majority. Therefore, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs are also encapsulated within majority positions. I am not immune to that. I try to be mindful of that so that I can sit there and think and have some forethought into how my participation in X, Y, and Z may be impacting those as an unintended consequence. And that's what I want to avoid, and that's what I fight against. So let me tell you, with regards to these kind of things, let me show you an example. And I'm not railing on this person. So guys, I'm just sharing something and I'm reading it. That's it. Okay, this is in Alabama. This was recently posted on the internet. And what it says is, why in the hell are parents just finding out there was a student removed from Huntsville City, I don't know, middle school, about 2 p.m. this afternoon for having a hit list and making threats of killing other students? Why is this notification a vague, as they can get Facebook posts only at 7:30 p.m.? And why is the notification a vague? Okay, no, don't understand that. According to multiple students, it was serious enough for the kid to be removed in handcuffs. I'd like to know if that was true, and if so, why no parent was alerted. Okay, so here we go. Here we start the brush fire within social media from concerned parents. I am not passing judgment. It's natural to do that. Okay, this is another response. Okay. I guess it's a school response. A student made a remark today that some may have perceived as a potential threat and caused concerns. Out of an abundance of caution, upon learning of this remark, a thorough investigation was conducted. We determined this perceived threat does not appear to be credible. We do not take incidents like this lightly, and we treat even perceived threats as if they are serious. Okay? Now, with that being said, guys, in the past, and usually after we have some kind of an event, I tend to have an increase in the number of my clients, typically high-functioning autism, or kids that sort of fall outside of the realm of acceptability, to where they're prone to bullying, they're considered weird, they're considered different, and those kids seem to be targeted all the time, to the point where, for example, a few years ago, in a school district south of Birmingham, not a bad community, one of the nicer school districts, my client was arrested, and he was put in juvenile. He was 14 years old, by the way, put in juvenile detention, high functioning autism, considered weird, and same situation. There was a remark or a call made that there was a rumor circulating that this kid had a kill list, and then kids texted their parents. Somebody made a post on the community board. It went like wildfire. Parents showed up at the school to remove their kids from the school that day. Mayhem and chaos. The resulting investigation, the initial investigation by the principal, found that there was no legitimacy to it, and there you go. But because of the firestorm created by the parents, the district and the police were trying to brush it under the carpet and not treat it seriously, they reopened it over the weekend, and by Monday they had arrested this 14-year-old. And put him in juvenile detention, and then it took me 3 weeks to get him out. 3 weeks, guys. 3 weeks for a 14-year-old that hadn't done a damn thing. And as we put two and two together, as we started our investigation, as we looked into this and uncovered it, what we ended up determining was that the rumor was started by a girl. The girl claims that she had heard it, only her, from him while he was alone on the, I think on the track. And somehow she heard this and passed this on. No list. He had no access to weapons. He had made no threats. It was all conjured and made up by this girl. And this girl, by telling whoever, because she thought he was weird and that he could have one, the resulting effect was this firestorm. And I understand people say, well, we've got to treat even. No, we don't. The school had already conducted an investigation. This kid has never lied in his life. He has high functioning autism. That isn't how it manifests for him. He'll tell on himself for the smallest infraction. He was not a risk or a danger. He just was unwanted. He just was perceived as weird and different. And this little girl, so my client, 14 years old, was charged with a terrorist threat. And the juvenile code for terrorist threat is that it causes a major disruption in whatever activity. And within the school, because parents were going and removing their children, they believed that they were justifying charging him with a terrorist threat. Now, he had no issue, but I can tell you that one of the things that burned in my brain forever to this day, when I was standing in front of the juvenile judge with my client standing next to me, and he was discussing the plea, we were doing the plea, to where he either admits or denies the allegations against him. And of course we denied it. And then the judge explained, well, we're going to have a trial and evidence will be put on. And my 14-year-old listened, didn't say anything, scared to death. And when the judge asked him if he understood and if he had any questions, my client asked one. He says, if I'm found guilty, does that mean that I'm going to get the death penalty? And guys, he was dead serious. His voice was shaking. He was shaking out of fear. That's what he thought was going to happen to him. That's what he spent 3 weeks away from his family. What happened to this girl? Nothing. Was she charged with a terrorist threat? No. My client could never return to that school. He had to be given a fresh shake at a brand new school, at a different school within the district, because his reputation had been shot. They had destroyed him, destroyed this family, because of the malicious nature, gossips, and rumors. Okay, that was then. What am I dealing with now? I have a current case to where there's some kind of anonymous messaging app that somehow is connected with the school and promoted to be used, to where these anonymous messages started popping up about this particular kid that's also young, in early teens, high functioning and autistic, weird, different, to where on this anonymous message board, these students are sitting there targeting this kid, naming him, saying that he is a school shooter, and that, mounting. So of course, after the weekend, these kids, because they've all been on this messaging app anonymously, approach him and ask him if he's a school shooter. And of course he says no. But because he was so irritated, some of his responses were considered vague. And then, of course, it was reported. The school's response was to take every perceived threat seriously, even though this kid hadn't done a thing. And the school jumped into action and suspended him. Then they had the police, the SRO, the school resource officer, go to the home without a warrant and search it for weapons, which of course there weren't any. He didn't have access to those. Now, he also didn't do anything wrong. He also didn't have a list. He also did not trigger this. He also was not a danger to anyone. All conjured and made up by students that perceived him as weird, perceived him and judged him and treated him and bullied him. And I tell you what, if you want to sit there and create a problem for yourself, this is how you do it. But I can tell you that as bad as those students were, and they all got away with it, currently they're getting away with it. Be able to sit there and target these kids. Be able to sit there and bully them to where there's no consequence for them starting the fire. They're the ones that yelled fire in the crowded movie theater, not this kid. Not my 14-year-old client. Not the one up in Huntsville. It was other children and their perception of this kid, and the gossiping and the rumors and the bullying that was brought to bear on these kids. Now, in hindsight, we see a common thread with a lot of these school shooters, in hindsight and behind the scenes, to where after the completed act, you hear other students go, well, he was bullied all the time, relentlessly. Okay, no different than the kid up in Michigan. I've heard that in the media. I've heard that stated by other students. Is that an excuse? No, it's not an excuse. You don't murder people, as a response to that. But what I'm saying is, where is the culpability for the kids doing the bullying? Where is the culpability of the administration and the school in jumping to action and then basically determining guilt out of a reaction, a community reaction even? That's a mob, guys. That's called a mob. Mobs are rarely correct in their responses, rarely. but they're overwhelmingly responsible for civil rights abuses that I have to clean up. And the thing is, how do you clean up something like that? How do you get this kid his 3 weeks of freedom back? How do you sit there and remove his legitimate fear of police anytime that they're around? How do you remove these perceptions that everybody is judging him and dislikes him? You can't undo those things, guys. The amount of mental and emotional damage that is being done as a result of these responses, these knee-jerk responses, without getting to the bottom of who started the rumors. Where were they sourced? And I can tell you that so many times they're being sourced by kids that are bullies, kids that have judged, kids that do not like this person, and they're the ones not being punished, not being charged, and that's where there's this perpetuation of these problems. No different than, let's say, mandatory reporting, to where the bad apples are mandatory reporting because they're bad people and they're targeting families because they can, with no consequence. And so therefore, something that's intended to do good and protect families is also used as an iron hammer against those by evil people, by bad people, by pathetic, disgusting people that do nothing but plot and not mind their own freaking business. There is a balance to this world of paying attention to the things that are around us going on. But then there's another one to sit there and step into the mire and step into the horse crap and decide that you're going to sit there and make things, your business that aren't your business, and create problems that didn't exist. And those triggers could end up creating more of a problem way outside of that realm. Where is the accountability and culpability for those making false accusations against vulnerable kids that are not understood, that are not receiving the right kind of services, let's say in language and pragmatics, which is social communication? And this is one of the biggest areas where schools are failing our kids, failing our special kids. I think failing all of our kids is in this area of socialization, in this area of communication and social communication, to where in these environments, they need to learn to interact in an appropriate way, to be able to manage their emotions and disappointment when people don't agree with them and things of that nature. Because we've largely antiseptically cleansed our schools of many of these subject areas and interactions that used to teach these things. And this is sort of why I believe so much in a well-rounded classical education, is because all of that exposure to literature and those exposures to philosophy and religion and all of those different aspects that encompass and make us human have been removed, sacrificed for double and triple dosing reading and math and science. Well, that doesn't help us with our negotiations with each other and communications and socialization and understanding different people's ethnicity and races and where they come from and perspectives. And you sit there and you wonder why we're in the situation we're in this country. This is a resulting effect, guys. We don't know each other. And so therefore it's easy to judge each other because we don't know each other. We don't live in each other's neighborhoods. And so we don't have proper context. And because we don't have proper context, it's real easy to be an asshole and judge other people. Because that is what people do. Ignorance is dangerous. Ignorance is cured by proper education. And like I said, a well-rounded classical education. We used to have that in this country. I don't think we do anymore. It's the reason we homeschooled our 3 boys, is that they are having, and they do have, a well-rounded classical education. And so I do not fear for how my boys can reason and think through issues. And my oldest daughter, who's in law school. She has a tremendous, uncanny ability to do that. But I'm telling you that these kind of things is what sets in motion violating student rights, destroying lives, wrapped in good intention. I don't have an answer for all of it. I don't. But I'm telling you, we need to have that discussion. How are we going to better resolve this? And like I said, any legislation that you support, any changes in rules or policy, it would be so much better if we took the extra step and the extra mental energy to think through how these policies may impact, unintentionally impact, vulnerable populations and vulnerable people. And then, only then, would we know that we need to layer exceptions and that we need to sit there and not be motivated and moved and swayed by the mob. That's a mob. Okay? Guys, just because a kid's removed in handcuffs doesn't mean squat. Because anybody can be arrested for anything. Doesn't mean they're justified. Doesn't mean that there's charges. It just means that they're arrested. Temporarily detained, so to speak. Does not mean squat. That's what lawyers and judges are for. Police arrest. Lawyers and judges determine innocent and guilt along with the jury. Okay? Not a cop's business to sit there and make a determination of guilt. That's what I'm for. That's what a district attorney is for. That's what a judge is for, and that's what a jury is for. People are innocent until proven guilty. So just because you see somebody in handcuffs doesn't mean squat. I'd like to have a discussion to sit there and get your thoughts on this. I think it'd be beneficial.